Foundations and facets of ethics concepts. Sorry for not being visible in this video. The main intention of this video is to give you all the basic concepts that are required to pursue this course called Foundation and Facets of Ethics. In the first modules, the idea is to introduce you to certain concepts of contemporary philosophy of ethics, so that once you learn the Vedic concepts of ethics like dharma and so on, you will be able to relate yourself, your understanding to the contemporary vocabulary, and you will be able to explain your understanding to the contemporary audience, and you will be able to connect your understanding to the contemporary understandings and knowledge. What is ethics? The word ethics comes from the Western usage, as you know, and in the Western philosophy, it has been considered to be a very important branch of philosophy. And as a branch of philosophy, it discusses the theory or theories of what's a right action, right human action, and what's a wrong human action. In fact, in the Western philosophy, ethics and aesthetics were considered to be two main branches of a branch of philosophy called axiology, which actually deals with the concept of values. In Greek philosophy, ethics and aesthetics were looked at as two parallel, very important branches of philosophy. The way we are studying philosophy, ethics here in this course is not in a way of learning what is ethical, what is not ethical. This course doesn't instruct you that these are the ethics, these are the ethical actions, these are the unethical actions. This course is in fact an analytical course where we analyze the ideas of ethics. In such analysis of ethics, there are three different aspects in which we do this analysis. The first aspect is called meta-ethics, which is in fact theoretical study of ethical propositions. Ethical propositions are ethical norms, ethical statements. This is right, this is wrong, or ethical propositions. Or this kind of actions can be ethical, this kind of actions can be unethical, can also be one kind of ethical proposition. Theoretical study of these statements, this is ethical, this is unethical, or these kinds of action or ethical, these kinds of actions are unethical, that kind of study is called meta-ethics. Normative ethics is the study, this is also a study, this is not a list of instructions, this is a study of practical means of determining an ethical course of action. How you can determine what is ethical, what is not ethical. Those methods are discussed in this branch. Applied ethics, as the word is very clearly showing you, is the study of ethics as applicable in a specific domain of life or career. For example, medical ethics is a branch of applied ethics. Business ethics is another branch of applied ethics. Administrative ethics is another branch of applied ethics. Political ethics, you can go on listing like that. Those are all branches of applied ethics. And what can lead to confusion is the similarity apparent similarity of words like normative ethics and ethical norms. We have used the word normative ethics earlier in the earlier slide, in which we said that normative ethics is a theoretical study. It's not norms as such, a list of instructions as such. And ethical norms obviously are instructions, prescriptions of do's and don'ts. These are code of conduct. You can, for example, ethical norms can be for part of a religion or a religious holy book, or a code of conduct prepared by a department of a government or a private body, a corporate body, and so on. These are a list of do's and don'ts, that is. But normative ethics is not that. Normative ethics is a branch of philosophy. It's a theoretical study. Actually, what it does is it examines the standards, the methods of how to determine what is right, what is wrong, rightness and wrongness of actions. And there are other concepts which are usually confusing when we look at the word ethics. People, in a very popular way, in a very general way, keep using words like values are going away in the society. Society is losing values and so on. Then sometimes we get confused and think that, okay, society turning into an unethical society is what is meant by society losing values and all that. So we have to actually see the difference between these two words. What are values? What are ethics? Values are the criteria, they are the basis of evaluation or judgment. What is evaluated? There can be aesthetic values, different from ethical values. For example, the basis, the standard, the criteria of deciding beautiful or not beautiful is also values. They are aesthetic values. But and if these values are the basis of ethical judgment, yes, they are ethical values. There can be many such things like aesthetic values, ethical values, political values, social values, and so on. But ethics itself is not this. Ethics are the views of right and wrong only. That's all. So values and ethics are different in this way. And we use the word morality. Morality is a social or cultural view of a social group regarding what is moral and what is immoral. We use the word moral and immoral. For example, extramarital relationships, etc., are issues of morality. We don't call them ethical or unethical. We use words like it is immoral to have extramarital relationships, but we don't say to have extramarital relationships is unethical unless we actually go into the basis of ethics and see in what way. For example, anything harmful to the other person is unethical. So from that point of view, extramarital relationship can be considered to be unethical if it is harmful, say for example, to the wife. But it is at the same time immoral also, because for the society, for a given society, extramarital relationship in the norms of that society is considered to be immoral. Then we come to the fundamental concepts of Vedic ethics. For example, dharma is a very, very important concept of Vedic ethics. What is the etymology of this word? The word comes from dhar, and there is the other part, ma, the suffix in the word. And dhar, as you know, is a very popular word in Hindi and many Indian languages. To dhar is to wear, for example, to wear clothes or to hold and so on. So, dhar Dharanat dharma iti ahuhu. Dharma is called so because it holds. Dharayati iti dharmaha. It holds, that is why it is called dharma. Or the etymology is given to the word dharma. So, if you want to look at the word dharma from its etymological point of view, from the way the word is formed, it means the one that is holding, or then the one that holds. And then we have in Vedic philosophy another very important concept called Purusharthas. Purusha Arthas. Arthas means purposes, goals, desires. Purusha is human being. We have to be very careful here. Purusha is very often taken to mean only a male person. No, Purusha is not a male person. You can even remember person to be a very close word in English to the word Purusha. You can see that person can be a male person or a female person. In the same way, Purusha also can be either a male Purusha or female Purusha in this sense, here in this sense, human being. And Purusharthas are the purposes, goals of human life. Purusha and Purushas, persons, arthas, that is purposes, goals or desires. So purposes of persons or goals of persons or desires of persons are Purusharthas. What are the purposes with which human life exists? What is the meaning of human life? We generally bother about this idea of the thought of what is the meaning of this life. You look at the word meaning, the word has got mean and ing. What is mean? What is it intended to be? What is intended? So dharma is one of the Purusharthas. Artha is another Purushartha. Kama is another one. Moksha is another one. All the four. Dharma is ethics. Artha is either wealth or power, or both wealth and power. We usually keep using the word artha in the sense of only wealth or economy and so on, but actually you look at the book Chanakya's Artha Shastra, what does it do? It is actually not just dealing with wealth, it is dealing with politics, public administration. So you can see that the word artha there means even power. And kama, this is another word which is usually confusing. People use the word kama in the sense of sexual pleasure. There is nothing wrong. Sexual pleasure is definitely kama only. Love, yes, that too is kama. And pleasure in general is also kama. And moksha, liberation. Liberation is a very important Vedic concept which needs to be understood differently than, for example, salvation of Christianity. We totally have a different concept of liberation than salvation. So now if we come back, so what are we saying? We are saying that a human being lives for ethics, human being lives for wealth and power, human being lives for pleasure or sexual pleasure, human being lives for liberation. Or the human being desires ethics, human being desires wealth and power, human being desires pleasure or sexual pleasure, or human being desires liberation. Does he? Let us see. There is a further deeper discussion later on this point. And these Purusharthas, these four Purusharthas, are classified into two different kinds of groupings. All the four Purusharthas together are called Chaturvidha Purusharthas. You understand the Sanskrit word Chatur, four. Chaturvidha Purusharthas. And when you group all these Purusharthas together, that group of four is called Chatur Varga. Varga is group. Chatur Varga, group of four. And when you take only the first three of these, Dharma, Artha and Kama, leaving out moksha, you note this. We are leaving out the last one, the fourth one, moksha. The first three, dharma, artha and kama, together are called trivarga, the group of three. You may even say, for a very popular purpose, for the purpose of ease and convenience, we can even say that dharma, artha and kama are these worldly purusharthas, and the one that is left out is the otherworldly purushartha. The first three are related to the worldly life. The fourth one is related to the spiritual life. So when you take all the four together, even the spiritual life along with worldly life, it is chaturvarga. But when you take only the purusharthas of the worldly life, that is trivarga. Dharma, we said dharma is a very important Vedic concept, but we should also know that all the major religions of India, Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism, all of them are called dharmic religions, in contrast to the word, for example, Abrahamic religions. Judaism, Islam and Christianity, all the three together are called Semitic religions or Abrahamic religions. To contrast those religions with Indian religions, major Indian religions, people use the word dharmic religions. Why? Because dharma is the key concept. Dharma is the key concept of all these religions. That is why these are called dharmic religions. In what way Hinduism is different from Buddhism and Jainism, for example? We have been keeping the word Hinduism all the time in inverted commas. Please note that. Because Hinduism is a misnomer, the word Hinduism itself is a misnomer, and to distinguish Hinduism from Buddhism and Jainism is also a misnomer. But for the purposes of this course presently, we are trying to go along with the popular understanding that Hinduism is different from Buddhism and Jainism. So in that sense, in that popular sense, which probably for temporarily we are accepting the wrong concept, but there we are saying Hinduism is Vedic. As such, Hindu view of dharma is based on Veda, and a view of dharma is found in Vedas and Vaidika Shastras. That is the dharma followed in the Vedic side. And in the Buddhist and Jain side, Buddhist and Jain views of dharma are independent of Vedas and Vaidika Shastras. Independent of does not mean that they are opposed to the idea of dharma in Vedas and Vaidika Shastras. Independent of means Buddhism and Jainism consider Vedas and Vaidika Shastras as not necessary to understand the concept of dharma. They have their own way of comprehending dharma, is the way they think about dharma. So that is why we use the word independent of Vedas and Vaidika Shastras. The word dharma is so big, so vast, and it has got so many different meanings that it's impossible for a single slide to cover all the meanings of dharma. So we are just now taking only a few of those concepts. One of the meanings of dharma is it is nature of things. For example, we use words like the dharma of water is to flow downwards. Dharma of sun is to rise in the east. Dharma of birds is to fly. So there we are using the word dharma in the sense of nature of things. But we can use the word dharma as nature of persons also. This person has this nature. The being short is the dharma of this person. Being tall is the dharma of this person. And so on. They're all dharmas of persons. And even humans have their physiological nature. So to sleep in a certain fashion is the dharma of human beings, and so on. To trouble others without reason is the dharma of dushta, we say. For example, dushta has the dharma, nature, of troubling others without any reason. Dharma, the word dharma is also used as in the sense of duty of individuals. To look after one's own parents in their old age is one's dharma, we say this. And to get one's daughter married, for example, in a very popular understanding in traditional households, people say, oh, you didn't fulfill your dharma of getting your daughter married, or you didn't fulfill your dharma of, for example, helping your son who is in trouble. That's your dharma. So all this. So in that sense, it is duty. We are using the word dharma in the sense of duty. Then what is the difference between dharma and ethics? Is dharma exactly ethics itself? No. The word ethics cannot be used in the two senses. Nature of things, for example. We use the word dharma in the sense of nature of things, you remember that. And in the sense of nature of persons. In that sense, we cannot use the word ethics. For example, to fly in the air is the ethics of birds. No, we don't say that, and we don't say this is the dharma of a bad person. In that sense, we cannot say this is the ethics of the bad persons. No, so these two words are different, in which the word dharma is used. So dharma means ethics is a wrong statement. But the word can be used in the sense of duty, in which the word dharma is used. For example, in this view of ethics, which is also called as deontological view of ethics, actually I wanted to introduce a huge number of concepts of ethics. For want of time, we have reduced the list of words that we want to learn from the contemporary ethics. But one of the very important concepts of contemporary ethics is a deontological view of ethics. This deontological view of ethics at least corresponds to one of the several meanings of dharma. For example, dharma as duty. So dharma as duty and deontological ethics is one and the same. In that sense, the word ethics comes close to dharma. There are many other senses in which the word dharma comes close to the concept of ethics. And dharma as the law of nature. Etymological meaning of the word dharma, that which holds, actually means that which holds the universe together, that which sustains universe, that which sustains nature. The meaning nature for dharma, we have seen. For example, it is the nature of water to flow downwards, it is the nature of birds to fly, or in those senses, the word meaning nature of dharma leads to the meaning nature of nature or law of nature. That is, law underlying all laws of nature. So it is the dharma of prakriti. It is the dharma of the jagat, dharma of the vishwa. In that sense, we use the word dharma. In Western philosophy, we have this concept of natural law. Very, very important concept. If you talk to any scholar of Western philosophy or Western political science or Western law, Western jurisprudence, the word natural law gets repeated quite often in there. It's very important. Particularly in philosophy of ethics, there is this concept, natural law. This seems to be close to the Vedic idea of dharma as law of nature. That's what we discussed in the earlier slide. Law of nature. It is the law of all laws of nature. It is the nature of nature. So that is very close to the concept of natural law in the Western philosophy. In Western philosophy, the word natural law is used in contrast to man-made law. They use the word natural law to tell people that it is not the law that is made by kings, made by modern democratic governments, the constitutions that are made and so on. It is not made by human beings. Dharma in the sense of law of nature too is in contrast to dharma found in smritis and such other code books. Dharma in the sense of law of nature or this the one which is close to natural law is different from the dharma found in smritis in the sense smritis are man-made. They are code books. They are not apaurusheya. They are not beyond human creation. No, they are man-made. So even in the case of dharma, we are saying like natural law is not man-made law. In the case of dharma also, we are saying it is not a man-made smriti. So the same word dharma has two senses. One sense is that it is the law which is beyond man-making, a man's creation, and the same word dharma is used as the dharma found in smritis. So we have to remember that there are two different usages of the word dharma. We have to ask, in which sense are you using the word dharma? Are you using the word dharma in the sense of law of nature which is beyond man-made laws, or are you using the word dharma in the sense of the dharma of smritis which is man-made? Then we'll be able to have a good clarity. And now the very important contrasting pair of terms in the Vedic understanding of ethics is Shriti and Smriti. Smritis, most of you know, are code books with a list of instructions of do's and don'ts. We have words like Manusmriti, Vishnusmriti, Parasharasmriti, and so on. In each of these smritis, there is a list of instructions of do's and don'ts. We have seen the word ethical norms. These are norms actually. There are norms in these books. The norms that are there in these books can be either ethical or they can be codes of morality or they can be customs and traditions sometimes also. In the Vedic tradition, it's a well-known idea that smritis apply to a certain period of time, and new smritis can be compiled from time to time. Most of those who know Vedic culture, Vedic worldview, keep saying this. Yeah, smritis do not apply to all times. They can change from time to time, and you can always compose a new smriti for a new time. If codes keep changing that way, can there be a continuity throughout this change? The spirit that runs through all the changes, that maintains the continuity, is what? It is the spirit of Shruti. That is, Shruti means Vedas. It is the spirit of Vedas. Spirit of Vedas means? What is the running theme? What is the running thread of all the expressions of Vedas? Let me give you an example. If you consider that all the Vedas are, say for example, environmentally friendly, nature friendly, that's one of the spirits of Vedas. So that way, if you can draw some running themes of all the ideas of Vedas, that is the spirit of Vedas. So when you compose a new smriti, it should be in accordance with that spirit. For example, when you compose a new smriti for say modern period, this modern period smriti should be in such a way that it contributes to environmental friendliness or nature friendliness. If you consider or if you find, if you discover that that is one of the important spirits of Vedas. So that Shriti is the continuity, eternal continuity. Smriti is what keeps changing from time to time. Another very important concept of Vedic idea of ethics is rhythm. Rhythm, dharma and satyam are the three words that are used together, and there are places in Vedas, Upanishads and other Vedic components where we use words like Ritam vadishyami, Dharmam vadishyami, Satyam vadishyami, all in a line, in together. What is this rhythm? It is such a crucial concept of Vedic worldview. What is interesting about this word is that it is used in relation to or as connected to both the dharma and the satyam. Take the word anrita for example. In Sanskrit the word anrita means not rita, anrita. It is etymologically nine tatpurusha. Nine is the prefix there, and 9 plus rita, it becomes anrita, not rita. It in fact means, what is anrita in Sanskrit? Lie. Not true. If I say you are speaking anrita, then I am saying you are speaking lie, you are speaking something which is not true. So if anrita is not true, lie, then what is rita? The rita means true. Okay? So hence satyam. Rita means satyam. But rhythm is also used in the sense of dharma at many places. How is this possible? The same word is used both in the sense of dharma and satyam. Okay. This makes rhythm a concept where dharma and satyam meet. Is that right? In the parlance of modern science, we say that the aim of science is to find the ultimate truth. And we also say that the aim of science is to find the law underlying all laws of nature. This law underlying all laws of nature is the truth that the science is aiming at. There, if that is true, then the truth and the law underlying all laws of nature are one and the same. Oh, is this the place where dharma and satyam meet? And is this the place where we can use the word rhythm in both the senses? Laws of nature is rhythm. Law underlying all laws of nature is rhythm. Or absolute dharma, which is not relative dharma. Relative dharma means dharma which applies to a place, to a time, to a context, to an individual, to a culture, and so on. That is relative dharma. But dharma which is beyond all this, which is beyond space, time, context, individual, and so on, that is absolute dharma. So, absolute dharma that underlies all the relative dharmas, and absolute satyam, absolute truth, in contrast to relative satyam. Relative satyam, relative truth is, for example, what I know is truth for me, but what I know need not be true. And if you take this logic of, okay, I know that Mr. X is inside this room, that is my understanding, but the fact is that Mr. X is not there. But from a different point of view, Mr. X is there is also probably wrong. So if you go on analyzing that way, finally what stands is absolute satyam, absolute truth. So, is there a place where absolute satyam and absolute dharma meet? And is this what is being called as rhythm in the Vedas? Very, very interesting. We should study this. Then we come to the psychological aspects of these ethics. We use these words conscience, antaratman, antasakshin, manasakshin, and so on. The word conscience, is often heard in contemporary conversations. What is the meaning of this word conscience? Dictionaries tell you that it is a person's moral sense of right and wrong, viewed as acting as a guide to one's behavior. What are the synonyms? In English they use the word still, small voice, inner guide, and so on. It can be called the inner ethical moral sensitivity of a person. On the Vedic side, what are the equivalent terms? Antasakshin, inner witness; Manasakshin, mind's witness; Antaratman, inner self. These are the words we use in a sense closer to conscience. In psychology, they say that conscience is that entity inside us, the mental entity, psychological entity, that leads to the feelings of remorse when a human commits actions that go against his moral values, his or her moral values, and to feelings of rectitude or integrity when actions conform to the norms, moral norms. Note here that the word his or her is being used. So here the word conscience is not being used in the sense of an absolute sense of ethics that is beyond the moral convictions of persons. This is being used in the sense of a sensitivity pertaining to a person's moral values. Is this inner psychological entity unconscious or conscious? That is, are individuals conscious about their inner remorse or rectitude and so on? Or this feeling of remorse or rectitude happens unconsciously in persons? We use the words like guilt. He has a guilt. So is he conscious? Is he aware? Is he aware of his guilt? Sometimes we say that no, he is not aware, but his guilt is being expressed in different forms. After Freud, in Freudian psychoanalysis, you have this unconscious and conscious and unconscious guilt coming out in several different forms of behavior and so on. Another question about conscience is it innate? That is, does it come by birth, or conscience is learned? We have seen in the same slide that psychologists use words like his or her moral values. If it is his or her moral values, they must be learned. But if you consider conscience to be beyond one's moral values, then probably it comes by birth. These are some of the debates around this concept of conscience. Then, do we have a parallel psychology of Manasakshin? The word Antasakshin, inner witness, used in reference to the concept equivalent to conscience in Vedic thought, shows that here too it is viewed as an inner entity watching, because we are using the word Antasakshin. Sakshin is watching the actions of person from inside. Papa can be viewed as the pain experienced by this inner entity when the individual performs unethical actions, and Punya can be viewed as the pleasure experienced by this inner entity when the individual performs ethical actions. So if you consider Papa and Punya to be the inner pleasure and inner pain and inner pleasure, then Papa and Punya also can be understood in psychological terms. There are these terms, Apurva and Pratyavaya in Mimamsa, and Punya and Apurva is Punya, Pratyavaya is Papa. I will correct that in the slide. The second word Pratyavaya leads to Papa. Religious merit acquired by the performance of Vihita, instructed actions, is called Apurva. Religious anti-merit acquired by the non-performance of vihita instructed actions is called pratyavaya. Dosha, they use the word dosha in the Purva Mimamsa tradition. These words probably to those who are not familiar with Mimamsa or Purva Mimamsa tradition, they may not be aware of the words Apurva and Pratyavaya. Punya and Papa are very popular words, but if you want to understand what is Apurva and what is Pratyavaya, you may consider Apurva and Pratyavaya to be equivalent to Punya and Papa. Punya and Papa can be seen as alternative later Puranic words for Apurva and Pratyavaya respectively. In the ideas of life after death, Punya is believed to lead to Swarga, a world of pleasure or reward, and Papa is believed to lead to Naraka, a world of pain or a world of punishment in the Vedic worldview. These things are highly popular. You already know, so I don't think I need to explain these concepts in detail than this to you. These are highly popular ideas already. And Swarga versus Moksha, both are other worlds. This is where actually Abrahamic religions differ from Vedic worldview. They have a heaven there and they have a hell, something like Swarga and Naraka. But their heaven itself is the highest world. But here in Vedic worldview, Swarga is not the highest. There is another one called Moksha, which is beyond Swarga. In the Vedic view of life after death, the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body, that is the entity that leaves the physical body at the time of death, it is a collection, it is an aggregate of all our inner senses and so on. That Sukshma Sharira of the individual is believed to get a life in Swarga, the world of pleasure, as a reward for performing ethical actions. But Swarga is not permanent. The individual is bound to return to earth to enter another grass body, that is another birth. They use the expression Kshine Punye Martyaloke Vishanti. Kshine Punye means at the context of Punya getting spent away, consumed away, the individual enters Martyaloka, that is the mortal world. Vishanti enters, the individual enters Martyaloka. This is actually what we call the cycle of birth and death. Shine Punya Martyaloke Vishanti, and after taking birth, again there is death. There is just Janana Marana Chakra. The state or the world where an individual in his innermost subtle form, we use the word Atman, self, can live permanently in absolute pleasure, which is called the world of Moksha. This world is called Kailasa by Shaivites, or Vaikuntha by Vaishnavites, or Manidvipa by Shaktayas, or Goloka by Krishna Bhaktas, for example, ISKCON people, Gaudiya Vaishnava people, and so on. It can be given any number of names depending on the tradition, individual spiritual tradition. But there is this common thing called Moksha, which is different from Swarga. Is it related to ethics? That's another interesting question. We can take it up later. But we should remember that Swarga is directly related to ethics. Okay, and can you overcome Swarga and then go to Moksha even after doing unethical actions? No. Because unethical actions lead to punishment. You can always reject rewards, you cannot reject punishments. So, this is the reason we always put Moksha together with Swarga, not with Naraka. Moksha, Swarga, 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 Naraka Only if you are eligible to Swarga and reject Swarga, that leads you to Moksha. So Swarga and Moksha are the positive worlds. Both are worlds of pleasure. Swarga is the world of relative pleasure. Moksha is the world of absolute pleasure. Both worlds of